Trump movement, they are still insanely delusional that they can stop Trump. The voice of the people is being heard. You can't now come back and say, okay, I don't like Trump, so I'm not going to get behind the nominee. I think that that is foolish, and if they break up the Republican Party by continuing to push back, they will be responsible for Hillary presidency, not the people who are screaming that they want a leader, a winner, and a fighter.
All right, news roundup and information overload coming up in the next hour. Hour 2, Sean Hannity Show. 800-941-SEAN is a toll-free telephone number. That voice you just heard booming out of the Hannity microphones from Atlanta, Georgia, was that of a former presidential candidate himself. Well, presidential candidate Mr. 999, that would be Herman Cain. By the way, do you know my name? Do you know my name?
Herman Cain, Sean.
No, your name is Herman Cain. Do you know my name?
Sean.
Okay.
I didn't call you Shane. I got it
You call me Shane. You call me Shep. You call me Neil. You call me everybody on my show but my own name. Do you even know when you're on my show?
I do now. I practice. I told you. I got it right.
I had you and Ben Carson last night on. I'm going to say, all right, let's go to Ben Cain from Atlanta. I mean, Dr. Ben Cain. What are you doing to me?
Good to be with you, man.
How are you, my friend?
I can't tell you,
Shane.
John.
Yeah, go ahead, Shep.
Look, I talk to Shane every day on my radio show. You got to give me a little bit of slack.
Oh, man, I don't know about that.
John, my friend, that clip that you played said it all. It is insanely ridiculous that these anti-Trump people are digging in their heels. And like I said at the end of the clip, if Hillary Clinton gets elected president because Trump was denied the nomination, it's their fault. I'm putting them on notice. I feel that strongly about it, and a few other people do also.
I think it's going to be, look, it looks like now, and Indiana's going to tell a very big story next week.
Yes.
It looks like Donald Trump has he has the path, and it's going to be up to the voters in Indiana and subsequent states, New Jersey, West Virginia. We all know the states, Nebraska, and then, of course, going into California. So the question is, I cannot for the life of me, and maybe you can explain it, because you're probably getting the same type of social media attacks that I am and emails that I'm getting, and I pay attention to people because I care about my audience, and I know you care about yours, but I don't understand Never Cruz. I don't understand Never Trump. I don't understand I'm staying home. I don't understand at all why people are creating the circular firing squad.
Because maybe they haven't realized yet the ramifications or the consequences of a Hillary presidency. During this primary, they're still focused on destroying each other, and that's unfortunate. You got the Cruz supporters trying to destroy Trump. You got the Trump supporters trying to destroy Cruz and Kasich, and on and on and on. Hopefully, once we get through this primary process, then they will understand the magnitude of trying to beat Hillary for the presidency in November. Only time will tell.
All right. I want to know this. Look, I understand. We started out with 17 people, and I remember following you closely when you ran in 2012.
Right.
And there was a period there where you were in the lead. And then we all know now, as a matter of fact, it's incontrovertible that the attacks against you were vicious, false, lies, narratives that were advanced. I'm sure that hurt you personally.
Yes.
But it also impacted your place in the race.
Yes.
And I thought it was extremely unfair. You had a lot of momentum leading up to that, but then the process ends. And for a lot of people that support a candidate, they seem to be having a tough time emotionally dealing with the fact that their guy lost.
Right.
How did you deal with it? Because you're very magnanimous. One of the things I love about being around you, I can't be around you without hearing that laugh of yours and just having a great old time. I mean, you're just a lot of fun to be around, but I'm sure it was pretty painful for a while.
Yes, it was. The way I dealt with it was I explained to my supporters that my family and the lies and the hurt that it caused, my family was more important than me continuing to stay in the race. Secondly, because some people in the media didn't do their job. If they had done their job, Sean, if they had done their job, they would have determined that one of the accusers was paid directly to read the statement against me. Another accuser, if they had done their job, was found guilty in a court of law in Georgia of lying against a business partner. They didn't want to go that far. All they latched onto was a frenzy to try and bring down Herman Cain. I didn't have the financial resources to fight lawsuits in 3 instances while I was running for president. That's why I had to drop out. The only candidate for president running for president in the Republican primary that talked to me before he declared, this may not surprise you, was Donald Trump. And when Donald Trump talked to me, he asked me, what should I look out for? The only advice I gave Donald Trump.
Let me guess. Look out for the attacks. Look out for the boom.
And be prepared for multiple lawsuits. This is what I said to Donald Trump. And I said, Donald, you have the money to fight multiple lawsuits while you run for president. I didn't have that kind of money to fight multiple lawsuits while I was running for president. That's all I told him. I didn't talk to him anything about domestic policy, foreign policy. It wasn't about that. It was about giving him a heads up of how he's going to be attacked. Now, here's what I didn't know, Sean. I didn't know that the Republican establishment was going to be one of those that came after him. That's what I am frustrated and disgusted about.
What do you tell your audience? Because you're a conservative. I'm a conservative. I think you've taken the same position as me. You're not endorsing. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But you had your 6 favorites, you called them, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So when people ask you, well, is Donald Trump a conservative, how do you answer that?
It doesn't matter. Labels are the things that the media and the liberals use to try and pigeonhole candidates. Don't focus on the labels. Push the labels aside and listen for what it is that you want to hear from that candidate. And
have you interviewed him a lot?
I did. He's been on my radio show twice. Yes.
Okay.
And here's the thing. If you look at the results of just Tuesday alone in those 5 states, what that says to me, which is different from the message that you're getting from the liberal media, is that people look past the political noise. I said months ago, people are voting for a leader, a fighter, and a winner. That's what they're looking for. They are not focused in on all of the noise that's coming from some of the liberal media and some of the other candidates. They're not looking at that. That's why he continues to surge. And I happen to believe, and I don't like to make predictions, he is going to surge in Indiana for the same reasons.
What are your thoughts then on Senator Cruz at this point?
At this point, Senator Cruz was one of my original pick 6. So if he were to get the nomination, which I don't think he is going to get it on the first ballot and maybe not on the second, I would still be able to support him. I happen to think that he has been misguided on some of his strategy in terms of how to get the nomination. And here's what I mean. His strategy after today, I watched a couple of his interviews, watched a couple of the speeches given by Carter Fiorina, has been all about stopping Trump. I think that's a flawed strategy. His strategy ought to be, here's why I'm the better candidate. But see, their political consultants don't tell them that. Their political consultants always tell them, go on the attack, go negative, that's how you win. I don't believe that.
So like when I call you in 8 years from now and say I'm going to run for president, what advice were you going to give me?
First of all, I'm going to say, don't do it. Secondly, if you're determined to do it, here are a few things that I would suggest.
Get ready for the attacks. Get ready for the lawsuits.
Remember, Sean, I went through that same moment of insanity, okay?
No, I'm not going through that. I'm not stupid.
In 8 years, I understand. But if you do decide to run, what I'm going to say is, number one, make sure that you are clear on your message and stick to it. Number two, You got to be careful who you surround yourself with. You can't trust everybody just because they have political experience on their resume. This is what's happening to John Kasich, in my opinion. John Kasich hired some people who have been in politics for a long time. That's fine. But guess what, Sean? All of his senior advisors worked for losers. Why did they lose? They lost because they used the typical political consultant advice of go negative and attack people. Now, to John Kasich's credit, he has said he was not going to get down in the gutter and
you know
do
what?
that
But
kind of
everybody,
stuff.
but Herman, you and I both know. Everyone says, "Oh, they hate negative ads," but they work. Everyone says, "Oh, you can't go negative," but it works. This is just a reality.
Because people don't want to spend the energy of trying to be creative enough to create positive ads. That's why they say that.
Well, it is funny. I mean, after all this time, I mean, how many times a day do you hear 999? It's not just me that says it, I'm sure.
Right. And what I'm saying is the reason that they say that it works is because sometimes it does, but they don't keep track of the times that it doesn't work, Sean. They don't
Let
keep
me ask
track
you
of
this
the times
question.
that it doesn't work. Look at all the candidates that have lost because they went down that road, and they still lost. They only tell you that because of the few instances where the negative advertising works. I don't think negative advertising is going to get Ted Cruz the nomination in this case. Because
let me ask this question. Let's just put aside.
They're not buying that stuff this time.
I also think that people want an outsider, and that was evidenced on Tuesday night. That was one of the number one questions, and
yes.
Indiana will weigh in next. Here's what I've been saying. No one person. You ran, what, Godfather's Pizza. You were a top executive at Pepsi. What other big companies did you run?
Top executive at, worked for Coca-Cola. I was an executive with the Pillsbury Company, Burger King Corporation, yes.
All right, so I got it wrong. Boy, that's almost sacrilegious if you work for Coke and I said Pepsi. Jeez.
That's why I had to correct you, okay?
You had to, of course you had to correct me. I'm sorry I don't have your resume etched into my mind.
That makes up for me calling you Shane, okay?
If you say so. Okay. No, not exactly, but here's my question. We have people like Herman Cain out there and Ben Carson out there and Rick Perry out there and John Kasich out there and Scott Walker and Nikki Haley and Bobby Jindal and all of these great, Newt Gingrich, Rudy Giuliani. Why do I think that, no one president can run the country? You need a team around you. You can't do a great radio show if you don't have Petey Spriggs and all the people that work for you.
Yes.
So, and it's the same with me and my radio and television show.
Yes.
Don't you think a united, sort of like the united stars of the Republican Party and conservative movement, if they unite together, we could actually really save this country? Or am I living in a fantasy world?
Absolutely. No, you're not in a fantasy world. If you look at the 17 people that started out in the Republican primary race, there is a lot of talent there that's been out there campaigning. If whoever the nominee is doesn't tap into that, I think it would be a mistake. Secondly, you have a lot of conservative, very talented people wanting to serve this country. They just have to be smart enough to surround themselves with some of those people, not necessarily political operatives, because that's been the problem. I think that we have a humongous opportunity. This is why I go back to my first point. Those people that are part of the Never Trump or the anti-Trump campaign, they are doing a disservice to the Republican Party, and they're doing a disservice to the United States of America, because this is critical.
It really is, isn't it? It's far more severe. All right. Have you seen our friend Bortz lately?
I talked to him yesterday on a panel. He is as onerous and cantankerous as ever. That's all I can tell you.
I am telling you, he's like a teenager inside a 70-year-old man's body. It's unbelievable. He never grows up.
He's enjoying it.
Listen, I kind of live vicariously through his madness, but it's fun. All right. Herman, we love you. Thank you, my friend.